Welcome to Fandom Power.
Hey, welcome back to Fandom Power Presents The Fandalorian. I'm your host, Wes Arscott, and this is part 2 of our Season 1 recap. Wow, so where are we now? We're
coming up on episode 5.
5? Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
we're over the halfway point.
Just
Are you still with us, good listeners? God, I hope so. That brings us actually to one of my favorite episodes of the entire series, and that is The Gunslinger.
Agreed.
Yeah, Gunslinger, for a couple of reasons. One, it takes us back to a familiar Star Wars location in Tatooine. But before we get there, we can't get there without having another piece of Star Wars, goodness, and that is we get our first dogfight in space.
Yes.
Yeah. And, I never did get a very good feel for what the starfighter was that he was fighting. But
I felt like it was like a modified
Naboo
fighter.
I don't know. I want to go back and rewatch it. I kind of got like this Z95-ish vibe off of it, but
I did too. I got a real Z95 vibe off of it.
I kind of feel like it's an original design for the series. Much like there's some question about the origins of the Razor Crest, because not only is it, it's spoken to, oh, the Razor Crest, like that's the name of the ship, but then there's another episode that it might even be the next one where they refer to it as Razor Crest class.
Yes.
So that kind of threw me for a loop, but I've seen sort of in the fan community, there's some discussion about, is the Razor Crest a modified LAAT gunship? It has a similar canopy and the stub wings. The engines are on
with
the sides,
sort of like the swept back.
Yeah.
And then
Star
Trek sort of.
If you go and look at the, you can look this up, but there's the Wookiee gunship, which is also a modified LAAT gunship.
Yes.
The Wookiee gunship looks even more like the Razor Crest because they mount the engines on the short wing pylons very much like the Razor Crest. So I hope that there is a bit more of a dive into the ship itself, because like all good Star Wars ships, they are...
The Razor Crest, the ship from Droids, the cartoon?
I would have to go back and really, really, really have a look at that. Although, now that we're talking about it, like going back into the old EU, do you remember Jango Fett's mentor?
Jango Fett's mentor?
Yeah.
You'll have to refresh me.
Jaster Muriel?
Oh, yes.
Remember Jaster Muriel's ship? It looked like the Flying Goose with short stubby wings with big engines on the side. Jaster, it was Jaster's Pride or something. Or
yes.
Yeah. So Razor Crest has some callbacks to that as well, right? But really, like, I hope that there's more, and I guess I'm just a nerd that way, but I would love to see more on the origins of the ship itself, just to see where.
Certainly when they reference in the very first episode, when the guy's like, oh my God, this is a Razor Crest, that's pre-Empire.
Yeah. So
and then it has, to me, it like the fact that it's chrome.
Yeah.
It lends a little bit of the Naboo royal family.
Nubian.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We got lots of that.
Yeah, exactly. So, Chapter 5, The Gunslinger. This one, and of course, maybe it's why I like it so much. This one is both written and directed by Dave Filoni.
It's a solid episode.
Yeah, for sure. So
we get to go back to Tatooine, and that made me just like.
Yeah.
If the show already wasn't tickling my childhood, like this episode, I think I like a schoolgirl, like when I realized where we were. Coming back to
Tatooine and seeing these familiar locations that not only is there a familiarity because we've been there before, but to see them use those same camera angles like Mando walking into the cantina or coming down the stairs into the cantina. And it's like, that's the same angle that they filmed it in the original movie. Or
Yeah,
very,
absolutely.
very similar, right? So it just lends itself to that familiarity. And like, you can't help but think like, is it docking bay 95? But of course it's not. She tells him to land there. The dock master tells him where to go, and it's not 95, but you're like, oh, but I bet it looks the same.
So yeah, that's amazing. Again, you see with the pit droids,
The 3 pit droids
from Phantom Menace.
Yeah,
And
with
again, you see his trepidation with droids in general,
no droids,
which is a theme.
Yeah, long running theme. I don't know if we've had our second. I know that the flashback, it gets longer every time they run through it, but if we had it
both
twice
times
now?
they do the armor sequences, there are flashbacks.
Yeah.
I believe that the last episode contains the flashback
Yeah.
the reveal.
The full one, yeah. We're introduced to a side character of Peli Motto, the mechanic who runs the docking bay.
She's great, actually.
She's pretty cool.
She's pretty cool, yeah. I really enjoy her.
She's feisty,
Yes.
in the sense that, it's almost, I don't want to stereotype, a woman in a man's world, but she has that feisty, scrappy, like, I've earned everything I've gotten. And
she's gritty, and she's an old enough character to have been on Tatooine the last time we were there.
Yeah,
but we
very
just
much.
Didn't meet her.
Right.
Like, she's a native of Tatooine,
Yeah,
They're
I get
rugged
that
people.
very much from her as well.
Yeah. We get to see the stormtrooper helmets on
the pikes. So what has happened there?
I'm not convinced that there aren't heads in those pikes, because there's some sort of undergarment.
Yeah,
and I've done a couple of models, actually, and that's why I've looked at these in detail.
Yeah, for sure.
I have some pictures on Instagram, and there are what looks like the black hoods that they wear.
Yeah.
And we see this in the animated series. They have these like almost like scuba hoods that leave their face revealed.
The body glove kind of.
Exactly, that's the body glove thing. But you see them, and they're like black red, like they're drenched in blood.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that one again just to try
and
to
they're
pick that up a
from
little bit more.
Underneath side of the helmet.
Yeah,
and there's certainly, when you look at the helmets in detail, they're not. These aren't blaster. These guys weren't zapped with lasers. These guys' heads were caved in with like gaffy sticks or weapons. Like there's blood oozing out of the cracks and stuff. Like this was very visceral for me. This is when I knew this was not my father's Star Wars, if you will.
So let's jump ahead for a second, and we talked about this on the bigger Star Wars episode about going into season 2, that the sheriff of Tatooine, who was introduced in the Wendig book.
Yes.
What's his name?
Cal.
I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But there was mention.
Vance.
Oh, right. Cobb. Vance. Vance Cobb.
Yeah. Cobb Vance.
Cobb Vance.
We're all around it.
Yes. So is Cobb Vance, is he instrumental in why the stormtroopers are now ornamentation?
Well, certainly. While it was only a chapter, he certainly was influential. He is the sheriff of Newtown.
Yeah.
And so, which was, we're not sure what town that was, but so that's a good point.
It's such it's so anathema to what we understand Tatooine to be, this lawless fringe frontier, anything goes kind of world. And, certainly the Mos Eisley Cantina scene from A New Hope supports that. And then to have, one of the galaxy's biggest, crime lords, make his home there speaks volumes to the state of the law on that planet.
Certainly. And I mean, the power structure had to change when Leia killed Jabba.
Yeah, of course it would have. So,
right.
So
that's got to lend itself.
Well, this is
and that coincides with sort of the end of the Galactic Civil War too.
Yeah.
Like they happen within days, if you will.
What's going on there that, whatever is left. And I mean, we don't really know.
No.
Was there a garrison there? Was there just a token force of stormtroopers?
And this is the idea of using a world we're familiar with, because Filoni knows that like the deep nerds are gonna go, and like pour over like the significance of the what's going on. That's the most compelling thing for me, actually, and I haven't said it yet, is that the timeline that this takes place.
5 years post Return of the Jedi.
Right, that's the most interesting time in Star Wars that I can think of, because
Yeah.
I tied to the original trilogy. I want to speculate on what's going to happen immediately after the Battle of Endor, when Luke and Leia and Han are still alive and in their
Yeah.
prime.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I find this period to be so, like, I made the joke about, kids didn't relate to the prequels because who wants a movie about politics? And I'm like, I'm standing in the back of the room with my hand up going, me, please. I want to know what's going on. And I'm in the same boat now. Like, what you talk about the power structure and the certainly with what's going on in especially with Star Wars Squadrons, and how like it's very vague about the government and the new republic and who they are and what they are and how do they project themselves and what is their level of governance. Like, I want to know what's going on.
There's a new book out, and it's I don't recall the title. It's a new book about Star Wars, but it talks about things like how the First Order was able to get so much power.
Yeah.
Because they were a separate government within the new republic, and so the new republic was very like open, like they wanted different government, because you imagine like the separatists were made up of various different types of governments from different systems and things
Right.
like that. Like, so you get this political feeling that, like, after the fall of the empire, that there was a lot of chaos, because they really did, I mean, it's in the mission statement, if you will, right? Like,
Yep.
Order to the galaxy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We're gonna bring order. So there's some of the totalitarian or not, there's some order
Right.
to the police state.
Yeah.
And so when that's shattered, and then you have a major crime lord shattered there's like, this world is like ripe for the taking. It
There's a
becomes
huge
like,
vacuum there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get back to Tatooine, and Mando makes a visit to one of our favorite Star Wars locations, and of course that
It
is
took me
the,
a second.
Yeah, you had to wonder, is it the same place or not?
It's until I
And-
saw the character sitting in Han's seat. That's
Well,
when I
that-
realized.
Yeah, I mean, to me it was, I saw that the shot leading up to going in the door. I'm like, I can visually, in my mind's eye, I can see the two dewbacks sitting at the door, but now the garbage is all cleaned up and there's nothing there.
Right.
And I'm like, that's the cantina. And then he walks in, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's no droid sensor, so maybe it's not. And then to walk down the stairs and to see that long bar, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe it is. And then there's a droid behind the bar. Maybe it isn't. And lo and behold, lately, in the last few months, we come to find out that that's not just any droid. Why, that's EV-99.
That's another deep cut.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
So let's go a little deeper on that. EV-99 for that episode was voiced by Mark Hamill.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Kind of processed, but it's Mark Hamill as EV-99.
No, fantastic.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very close to the.
Yeah, he very
voice.
does mimic the original voice. I have need for you on the master's sail barge.
And so then we meet the gunslinger. Do you think that he's the gunslinger in the episode?
So here's the thing, like, I was having a real hard time with that, like, I wanted to think, oh, the gunslinger, it's obvious, it's this kid, Toro Calican. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, it can't be. He's too young, he's too green, he's too wet behind the ears to have that kind of reputation. So, like, they can't be referring to him.
Right.
Could they be referring to, his bounty, the Fennec Shand character?
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
that was the way I interpreted it.
Yeah. But I suppose the third way to interpret that is it the mysterious figure at the end of the episode that we hear the boots, the ching, 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 and we see
Literally the
boot.
jangle.
Yeah. Is that a passive nod to that character who we hope and think may be revealed coming up in season 2? I don't know.
I certainly I paused the crap out of that scene.
Yeah, me too.
To check it out.
In my mind, and I don't know why I went there, because at this point I've removed Boba Fett from my mind, in the sense that, okay, this is not a Boba Fett show. This is about the Mandalorian. And so in my mind, I'm like, what other cool bounty hunters are out there that could still be active? And my mind went to, well, if Filoni's involved in this, what the hell happened to Cad Bane?
So you know that Dengar is in the Rise of Skywalker briefly, yeah?
I'm not sure if I was aware of that.
Yeah, there's a scene. I'd have to look it up.
I'm going to have to go back and watch
it,
that
but he's
too.
mostly cyborg.
Okay.
Perhaps it's the it might be the Force Awakens in Maz Kanata's palace.
Oh, okay.
But he looks like he's a bug-eyed, weird-looking robot guy.
Yeah.
And it didn't, except for when you look at the picture and you go, oh, he's still in the armor, sort of.
Yeah.
And then it's in the liner notes of the thing that, oh, that's Dengar, and he's continued to modify his body and modify his body.
Yeah.
So he's definitely still kicking around in this era.
So yeah, he could be out there. He could be around.
And I think it's EU, but Boba Fett kills IG-88 on Bespin.
Oh, really?
And there is an IG unit in the background of the Ugnaught scene.
Right.
Where they're throwing C-3PO's head
Oh,
around.
yeah, that's right. I do recall seeing that as well, yeah.
So, and then it was a comic book, but they retroactively made that actually IG-88.
Oh, really?
And that Boba Fett had killed him because he was trying to kidnap Han Solo out from under him.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool little side story. So in this episode, we have, again, Toro Calican, who we don't find out until later on in the episode, is trying to bring down Fennec Shand, and by doing so, that will get him into the Bounty Hunters Guild, and this is his first job. And of course, Mando tells him that he's out of his mind for even attempting this because she is a ruthless killer who would make short work of him. So
it sounds like the Bounty Guild is giving out impossible tasks to join.
Yeah. So I mean,
and then what is it about the kid that compels him to help? Because he has no interest.
No, not really.
In this.
I think, the idea that he's smart enough to realize that the guy that just walked in the room is the biggest guy in the room. It's that whole prison analogy, pick a fight with the biggest guy in there and they'll leave you alone. Only in this case, it's like, here's the biggest guy in the room. So, maybe I can use this to my advantage to get what I want. And maybe I can grease his palm at the same time. Right.
It's true. And it is the trope of the young, hungry, inexperienced kid trying to latch himself onto the grizzled veteran.
Yeah, for sure it is. For sure. So Toro Calican, played by Jake Cannavale. I'm not really familiar with any of his other work.
No, I don't think I've ever encountered him before.
And then, of course, Fennec Shand. That's Ming-Na Wen from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and other stuff. She's been around for a long time. She's fantastic in that role. I quite liked her, and how by the end of the episode, she's planted the seed that, she's worth more alive than she is dead.
Yeah, she's got a great little character arc there.
Yeah. Where you think like, oh, she's actually going to talk her way out of this. And of course she doesn't. But before we can get to that, we basically have to we have to have the cross-country tour, and in that cross-country tour, we get so much Star Wars jammed into this episode.
Can we talk about the speeder bikes for a second?
So
Anakin's speeder bike.
Yeah, exactly. You have these two speeder bikes. They look fantastic, and it's like, oh, wow, that really looks like Anakin Skywalker's speeder from Attack of the Clones.
Fantastic.
Nice little nod to, and what I really liked about this was, you have this scene with those two Tusken Raiders where, hey, why don't you ask them yourself? And he's like, what?
That was one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah. The best part is, he's hand signals and he's completely talking to them with sign language.
Yes.
What a development in that species, right? We don't see throughout the films, we don't see much beyond that's all we ever see.
Like
right?
Monsters. They're like automatic. They're just going to hunt you and kill you. There's no reasoning with these creatures, and there's no trading with them.
No, exactly. But
even though we see just Anakin slaughter them, they're,
right.
And so it's not. But in the EU, there's a Tusken Raider Jedi.
Yeah. I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, but him. Yeah. We get dewbacks. We get a dewback rolling across the desert with a dead rider. And
oh yeah.
yeah. And at first I thought that was going to play into the episode, like it was a ploy on the part of Fennec Shand to draw them in, but then no, it really isn't. It's just a dead guy getting dragged around by a dewback. Not to say that she may not have already killed that guy. Maybe he was
I thought it was a bit of a setup.
another bounty hunter.
She's
that
on
was
the ridge
already...
watching for
yeah,
sure.
Yeah, for sure. So was that another...
Again, he gets shot, and the Beskar saves him.
Yes. So, like, he's been shot every episode and lives to tell the tale.
She gets him twice.
Oh, she does. For sure she does.
Yeah, shoulder and in the back.
Yeah.
So there's armor under that cape.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure there is. So, yeah, Fennec Shand offers to help Calican capture Mando if he sets her free, but... And you think that he's going to go for it. I mean, he gets up, she gets up, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to take the cuffs off. And next thing you know, puts a round through her and drops her, and then thinks that he's going to go after Mando because Mando is worth more than she is, because everybody wants him. So he thinks that's his ticket in.
Little does he know.
Yeah.
No dice.
And talk about, leveraging his way in there. I mean, I didn't expect him, yes, he was young and kind of wet behind the ears, but he was ruthless enough to know, oh, I'll get you where it hurts, and to camp out at the Razor Crest at the docking bay and basically hold Pelly and the child hostage and basically, hey, give me what I want. And
he did show a little gumption.
He did.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, it didn't work out,
No.
And he did not make it.
He was all toenails.
Yeah, another opportunity there. I thought for sure, because the show has made a point of traipsing around the galaxy, and in the words of Obi-Wan, picking up another pitiful creature.
Yes.
I honestly thought that she was going to get on board and go with them, because of how she was such a, I don't want to say nursemaid, but she really looked after the child for that episode. I thought, oh,
I certainly got
cool
the
character.
impression that they were building this little dream team of characters.
Well, so did I.
Run around as like this little mini...
The
I thought it
A-Team
was
in
gonna be
space?
a bit of an ensemble show.
The A-Team in space.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
But then I'm like, how can you have two mechanics if you got Queel?
That's true.
Yeah, so... Gunslinger is largely one of my favorite episodes, and like I say, that I don't want to call it a reveal at the end, because it's more of a who is it?
It's definitely a mystery box.
Yeah. So do we want to speculate on what's going to happen in season 2 with that one? Because I think that is one of the biggest elements that is going to come out in the season.
Well, certainly the sound effect that was used is the same spur sound effect that they use on Boba Fett in The Empire Strikes Back.
For sure.
Can't be the only person in the entire galaxy to wear spurs.
No. Mind you, having Tamura Morrison confirmed for the next season really lends itself to that. That's probably what's going to happen.
And we know that Timothy Oliphant is playing Cobb Vance.
Yeah.
So there's two options there.
Well, look at that trailer. Somebody freeze framed it and tried to speculate that there's a scene with the two speeder bikes whipping by with Mando on one of them.
Sure.
And they kind of like have traced the outline of what might be Boba Fett's armor on the speeder bike.
Looks like a jetpack for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen the image that you're talking about. Yeah.
So
I paused the image of the shadowy figure leaning over Fennec Shan's body, and I studied it in as much detail as I could at the resolutions I had available to me, but I thought it looked feminine.
I couldn't tell. I mean, all I saw was a boot, Really, is there much more than that? A boot and some fabric kind of blowing in the wind?
I just thought like there's like a little cut where you could see like leg, and it looked
Maybe.
like a thin leg to me, like a
That's
feminine leg.
entirely
I
possible.
could be just grasping at straws.
Maybe.
And having Ahsoka confirmed.
I don't think Ahsoka, although you know what, that's not impossible. It's not impossible for Ahsoka to be there. I mean, if she's tracking the child, that's entirely possible.
That's a little bit of what I've been thinking. Like at least she could be at odds with what, like the Mandos.
Maybe.
She could be an antagonist for him.
Yeah, for sure, she could be.
In terms of her, what she wants to have happen with the child versus what he wants to have happen with the child as well, you know.
Well, and then we don't know where her interests are anymore with her departure from the order. So, like, does she want? You know, does she want to, you know, want the child to make sure that, you know, the child grows up, you know, and becomes a Jedi, or does she want something else for it? Or I don't know. If I had to say, I would put her very low on my list of who could it be in that scene. And as much as I don't want it to be, because I really think I wanted it to be Cad Bane. I don't think I'm going to get what I want.
Oh, Cad Bane would be amazing. I would take Hondo Anaka too.
Oh yeah, Hondo. Yeah.
I would take a few characters.
Well, let's put it this way, right? Like, let's go back. We talked about on an earlier episode, we talked about the Star Wars story group and how all these Star Wars projects are now canonized and in continuity with each other.
That's right.
Hondo Anaka is alive because he's in the Galaxy's Edge theme park.
Yes, absolutely.
So he's alive. They have
an exclusive action figure. Those bastards.
He's alive. It's showing up at Toys R Us, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, check your Toys R Us because that's where they are. All the Galaxy's Edge theme park figures are at Toys R Us here in Canada.
Oh, will do.
Yeah, that's actually I got a Hondo and I got a Mountain Trooper last weekend. Nice. So yeah. Other side note today, check your EB because Gaming Greats Darth Nihilus came out, and I picked one up today. So
I do have to check that out.
Yeah, but we're talking about The Mandalorian. And,
yes, we are. Yes,
for sure,
yes, we are. That's next week's episode.
So, yeah, the episode ends with this, like, who is it? And we just don't know. And so my prediction is it's going to be Boba Fett. I just think with everything, because I can't keep my nose out of rumors.
Yes.
You know, I just am too well informed to conclude that it's anybody else. So for me,
yeah, I think I agree. The sound bite is very specific.
Yeah.
And so that's my sort of smoking gun.
Yep. Wow. Chapter 6, The Prisoner. This one written by stories by Christopher Yost, and then the screenplay is adapted by Yost and Rick Famuyiwa, who is
the
also
first episode not written by Favreau or Filoni.
Is also directed by Rick Famuyiwa. This one, The Prisoner. What do we think about The Prisoner? This is the one where Mando revisits a element of his past, and we get to see some of the people that Mando used to run with.
Yeah, it has a nice heist movie feel.
Yeah.
It has some really good nods to the political structure in the years after the Empire. We get to see a New Republic prison
barge.
To see them highly organized. We get to see I think it's Matt Lauer, the guy who does the voice of Anakin in the Clone Wars, is the trooper.
Yeah.
The rebel trooper there. So we get to see them. They have, their uniforms are reminiscent of the old ones. That's a little nod that I kind of like.
Yeah, I like that too.
There's a few things like the ensemble nature of that, like the sort of like the Wild Bunch feel of that episode was kind of cool. Another Western,
yeah. This one felt almost like it was like a heist.
Yes.
And I like the whole crew thing and being the odd man out in the crew, but I like some of those actors, but I don't know if I like the crew as a whole. Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't watch a show about that crew.
No, I definitely would not.
No.
I love Clancy Brown. I love him in everything he does.
Yes.
I just wish he was written a little more sinister and a little less thuggy.
It's true. I'm not a fan of Bill Burr, and it's nothing, he's fine. Probably a beautiful human being. I'm not a fan of his comedy. He just, for whatever reason, he's like, he rubs me the wrong way. For me, I'm not. And so he was really good in that role.
Well, I was going to say, like, I'm not familiar with his comedy.
Yeah.
So his character Mayfield, I thought he's a good dick.
Yeah, and that's his comedy.
Yeah,
is that he's a good dick.
Yeah,
he is very crass and very outspoken and a bit of an asshole, and that's his MO. And so I was worried. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, no, that's perfect actually.
What I really loved, I don't know about you, but I was a huge, and I got to it late. I didn't watch it until it was on Netflix, but I'm a huge fan of the IT Crowd. And Richard Ayoade as Q90, the droid that actually
Nice.
flew the Razor Crest on that episode. I love him and everything he does, and it was really cool to see him in that.
That droid reminded me a little bit of Zuckuss or whatever
Bounty
they
Hunter
call him
droid,
now.
yeah, 4 LOM, yeah.
Yeah, whatever that official designation is.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kenner, for
reminded
screwing
me
that
of
up.
that, and also of that sort of model of droid, and again we're reinforcing the fact that Mando just doesn't
care.
like droids at all.
Yeah. Talking about droids in this episode, I really, really loved the design of the security droids, the New Republic security droids.
I have a picture of it on my.
Oh my God! To me,
yeah.
they were the next evolution of. Oh my God! What's his Rogue One? What's his name?
Oh sure, K2SO.
K2SO. They were the next evolution of that model droid, like right down to the hollow knees and the hollow elbows. But instead of being black, they were all silver, and they had a slightly different head. Like it was a little maybe more streamlined, evolved model of the same droid. Like,
that's a
the
good
new
thought.
the
Yeah,
New Republic has
absolutely.
adopted, on some level, they've adopted this technology, or they've
And
adopted.
for me, it was really nice at graying the political lines.
Yeah,
Like, so
for sure.
Now the Republic is using the resources of wealth and affluence. Like.
Did you get the reference, the other droid model in that episode, the big floater, I guess it was like a Sentry, and it was kind of bulbous on one end and flat on the bottom, had a lot of blasters on it, and then Clancy Brown's Deveronian character, he picks one up and smashes it.
Slams it into the other one.
Yeah. Did you
Yes.
get that was one of the droids from A New Hope that got unloaded at the Skywalker farm?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I don't think that I did get that. That's an awesome cut.
Yeah, it's
Beautiful.
you can see it in the lineup when Owen comes out to buy the droids.
I know exactly what you mean now.
Yeah, when you're looking at the
absolutely.
lineup I think he's on the far left. Yeah. Because I haven't seen that movie enough to know that, but yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, cool really cool scene though, bouncing around in those hallways on the prison barge, and then getting a look into some of the cells and just seeing, hey, who's in here? And you have an Imperial officer in one, and then you have that 4-armed monkey species that Favreau played in Solo in another.
Excellent. Yeah.
I loved all of that. I loved how clever Mando had to be to get out of the prison cell once they double-crossed him and locked him in by...
Oh, perfect. I like that he's had a romantic interest in the past.
With the Twi'lek girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, I mean, her character, like, he must have been in a very different place in his life, because she just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like, she was just like, what's the word? Viper? Like, very poisonous. Like, just everything she said was just like...
Toxic.
Vitriolic and bleh. But, one of the highlights of that episode was when when they put the tracker in the brother's uniform. And
that's right.
The New Republic shows up to find out what's going on, and they're like, oh, it's a space station. And
Dave Filoni is one of the pilots.
So every pilot in that patrol is one of the directors from the series.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. But they go to launch it's a gunship. They refer to it. It looks like they're launching some kind of gunship. That is, and I can't think of the name of it, but that was introduced way back in the West End role-playing game. It definitely was, I can't think of the name
Probably
of it.
in the source book.
Maybe, but it was definitely there, and it's made its way into the X-Wing miniatures game as well. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that stuff. So yeah, and so ends the prisoner.
You do get the sense too that the Republic is actually in control of law and order now.
Well, I mean, having a prison barge, like, one, why do we need a barge? Two, where are we transporting them to? Where did they come from? Because there's an eclectic mix of passengers on that ship. It's like, do they just fly these? Like, is it like the Raft in Marvel where we just put everybody in one place?
The most dangerous criminals are here.
Yeah. Do we just put everybody on a barge and float them around in space and then just rotate the one guy out every few weeks to, put in a fresh guy?
Like, the level of security is just with one sort of sentient being there.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Or is it some sort of, barge to transfer to the work planet?
Who knows? Like, it could be. But again, and I know it's a visual cue for us, but that Imperial was still in uniform. Like they didn't he wasn't wearing like a prison uniform. He was wearing his officer's uniform. So I guess they've been picked up from various places and they are on their way somewhere, but I'd like to know where. Are they going to Chandrilla, which is the seat of the New Republic, or the head of the New Republic government? I don't know.
You're listening to Fandom Power.
So moving on, we're chapter 7, The Reckoning. Reckoning. Written by Favreau, directed by, second one for Deborah Chow. And we start this one off with a sketchy holographic message from Grief Karga. And basically making a plea to say that Navarro's been overrun by Imperial troops and that the Mandalorian should come back and they can devise a plan to use the child as bait so that they can clean up the town by killing the client. And that if Mando can pull that off, he'll be square with the guild again.
And so that's got to be the motivation, is to just get square with the guild again, because he knows that while putting the child in immediate danger now, it's better than having to evade danger every day for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and I mean...
So I kind of wrestled with the character's choice to actually want to bother.
How so?
Well, just like, he could just walk, like, it's definitely a trap.
Yeah, of course it is.
And so, and he had to have known that. But so that he still chooses sort of, the right thing to do is to, like, square everything up. Like, honorably.
Yeah, I guess so.
So I think that's the sort of the choice that he takes.
Takes the moral high ground, knowing that that his sense of morality may not be shared by the other parties of this deal. And certainly that plays out over the course of the episode when, there's this moment where it's like, oh my God, he's about to get betrayed and shot in the back. And Karga wastes his two goons in front of him.
Yes.
And it's like, wait, I had a deal, but I couldn't go through with it. But that happens after the big... And I guess this is where Star Wars takes a bit of a misstep for me, where, a lot of people, this goes back to that whole Solo thing where people were so angry at Solo coming out because it was so close to The Last Jedi, and people were so disenchanted with The Last Jedi that they didn't want to give Solo a chance. And
yes.
This is the episode where they deliberately tried to tie it into The Rise of Skywalker, and when we see the child force heal. It's the first time we've seen force healing on screen in Star Wars. I think
that was a retroactive choice.
Do you think so?
I think so. And I think that what they needed to do was, what they did was they anticipated the immense amount of backlash that Rey showing a new power for the first time would have. And so I think that, and you'll recall that they released this episode early.
That is true.
It wasn't
yes.
on a weekly basis. It was released the day before the Rise of Skywalker was released.
Yeah, it was like the Wednesday.
And I think
it
was released early to canonize that power, to try to minimize I think it was damage control, bro.
Maybe. It's funny though, because as somebody,
such a toxic sort of thing going on there. It's just crazy.
But you and I, as fans of all things Star Wars, including the EU and especially the role playing game, wouldn't even bat out force healing. Yeah, whatever. It's been around for a while. You know what I mean?
I never thought it wasn't. Doesn't Obi-Wan force heal Luke in A New Hope?
So I kind of, to my understanding of Star Wars, to the depth that I liked, or I guess in my own head canon, yeah, of course he does.
Absolutely he does.
But I guess maybe not, according to the Disney canon. So, but yeah, force healing has always been part of the games and the supplements and all those things that came before it. So why shouldn't it be? Why is it taking this long to have a real big display of that?
Yeah, I think I really felt strongly that because I had read like, oh, there's something in here that is important and it ties into, and it was that, and I was like, there's no reason to do that, such an
Yeah.
innocuous thing,
Yeah.
unless you're trying to, oh, she's not the first, because there was so much crap about her being a Mary Sue and all that, like, but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it bothered me so much because so was Luke. Like Luke, Luke was older than her when he discovered he could wield
Yep.
the Force, and
Yeah, of
so
course he was.
that negative stuff bothered me a lot, and I thought that there was very much damage control.
Maybe on some level. One of the things I liked in this episode, and I guess I could say it's true of a lot of the other episodes, is that Filoniism, or that Filoni reference. We get to see again the blurgs, the blurgs that we've been carrying with us in the ship for the last couple of episodes finally have a moment where they get the one blurg gets, I guess, killed or swooped away by whatever it is that injures Grief Karga before he gets force healed.
Were they great dragons?
I don't know if they were crate dragons or not. I don't think they were big enough. Certainly not big enough to mimic the skeleton we see on Tatooine back in
certainly
A New Hope. And I mean, we've seen crate dragons before in other media, and they were never winged. They were just
that's very true too.
Giant lizards.
They had a Minok vibe.
Yeah, they did have a Minok vibe, didn't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, cool to see blurgs translated from animation over to live action.
Excellent. Yes.
Even if it did get eaten by a flying giant Minok. But then again, I guess back on that episode on on Soren, not Soren because that's the girl's name, not the planet with the thugs, the gang. Did you notice the Loth cat that was in the building?
Yes.
Yeah, I really liked that.
I rewatched today before we started recording, and Lauren was like, "Oh yes, Loth cat," because we just finished watching Rebels.
Yeah, I just love that stuff.
That's yeah.
I love seeing all of these things. I love seeing the different elements making the leap to other medium, and to see it again, to see something that I've only visualized in animation, in live action, and how, yes, it looks kind of weird, but it's like, oh, that is what a Loth cat would look like in real life.
I screamed live action Loth cat, even though it was CG.
Yeah, so the betrayal doesn't happen, and Karga comes clean that he couldn't go through with it, because by this time now we've witnessed the Force healing for the first time, and he's like, no, I can't do it. So
and another thing is that they explain that ability in one of the Periphery books.
Yeah.
That you take on a part of the person's like essence, their life force.
Even Rey had made that assertion when she did the same thing to that big
right. So
worm.
was it the actual healing that changes his heart?
I don't
know what I mean. Like part of
Maybe?
The child's essence is inside
That's
him
entirely possible when you say that.
Like that's kind of the way I felt about it.
Yeah. And I mean, with animals, it's a bit. I guess I'm thinking a little bit more about Rise of Skywalker when Rey does it with that worm thing. I mean, she's healing an animal, and I don't think an animal is inherently like good or evil. So,
no.
Does she take on any of the animalistic tendencies, or does she just like, oh, it's an animal that does its thing, and I'm just helping it? Like, I guess it's different.
I got the impression it was one way.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
So we get to get revisited by Queel again. Because now we're getting the dream team together. Yeah, we need all hands on deck to pull this one off, and we get the big reveal that Queel has resurrected IG-11, and Mando's not very happy about it. But at the same time, Queel is able to convince him that it's okay, that he's trained the droid to be an assistant and not a.
I love the montage.
Not a kill. Yeah, the training montage of learning how to
fantastic.
Walk.
He drops the crate on the creature.
Poor droid. Oh yeah.
Some great little slapstick moments there.
Yeah, very much like the pit droids. That same style of slapstick. It
reminded me of the early C-3PO stuff from Phantom Menace too.
Yeah,
movement.
Yeah, that and almost like the in a Goofy scene, when 3PO's head gets welded onto the battle droid, and he's just so awkward.
Yes.
But there's a similar awkwardness to IG-11 there, where he's like learning fine motor skills and stuff. But really, what a way to dive into droids are more than just, inanimate, servants, that there's more to them.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I always had the impression that they were more, at least that they could be more than just servants, that they were like something, it sounds bad, but like the way I feel about my pets is different than maybe the way most people feel about pets. But
Sure.
like that they're like part of the family, like they're friends.
Yep.
They're a different species. They
Yeah.
have totally different sets of emotions and parameters and things, but that like, so I always thought of them as, on that level of being a pet.
Yeah.
That was the intention for Chewbacca, but I always felt Chewbacca was a character where I felt droids were almost filled that role, but I still sort of feel like the word is wrong. But
I get what you're saying though, and I totally understand that, and on some level I agree with that. But then we've seen, there's enough creatures in Star Wars, like where does the line get blurred? Like Koaki and Monkey Lizard, like part pet,
they did
part something else.
Again, this is not your dad's Star Wars.
Yeah. So this episode has another twist, and that's we get to this is the one that has the I thought you said there was only 4 droids or 4 stormtroopers, right. And he's like, well, it was in his office, but as we head into town, we realize that it's a much more different situation than we were appraised of, and the town is literally bristling with troopers everywhere.
Entire garrison.
Yeah, and this is pretty cool because this is the point in the show where, the creators realize, oh, we don't have enough stormtroopers. What are we going to do? And so they elicit the aid of the local 501st garrison.
That's awesome.
Yeah, who are like, yeah, we'll definitely come and do that. So really cool to be a Star Wars fan. Wish I was part of the garrison down there where they were filming, because I definitely would have went out and done that.
Oh, man, in a heartbeat.
Yeah, for sure.
And even the separate armors lent themselves to that, because it's,
yep.
There's a little bit of ragtag biz going on there.
That handmade quality that, all the armors are made by their wearers, and there may be some variants. And, the 501st, if you've never checked them out, has very exacting standards of what they're looking for membership.
Oh, yeah,
because
high standards. Yeah.
They expect you to go out and troop and be part of functions and events and fundraise and do all this stuff. And they want their name to be represented very well.
They require the Black Series helmets for the stormtroopers to be modified.
Or more. Yeah, of course they do. Yeah, for sure. So we're face to face with the client again back at the cantina. And, there's this moment where I'm like, are they going to cut a deal? Like, because I really thought that, oh, great, we're going to see more of Werner Herzog's character. And,
sure, yeah, absolutely.
Because I kind of thought that he would be, I wanted him to be the big bad. I wanted him to keep going. And then
he was fantastic. He really was powerful on screen.
Yeah, and then to have
the scene where he steps right up to him, I believe it's this episode when he's talking about, oh, look at the armor you're wearing, and it's so beautiful when crafted by its native artisans. And he puts his hand up as if to stroke his cheek.
Yeah.
Or maybe even to give him a backhand.
Yeah.
It's like, and he hesitates a little. It's such a nice little piece of acting. He just puts his hand up, like, is it going to hit him? Is he gonna stroke his cheek? Like,
yeah. What's going on here?
Excuse me, I have to take this call. Really good, really good. I did too. I was disappointed a little bit when he was.
But yeah, at the same time, like, going back to that scene in A New Hope when we're sitting at the, I guess the planning table on the Death Star, and you've got all the Moffs or all the governors that are sitting there talking, and that there's a pecking order there, and you're not exactly sure who's who in the zoo until, Vader steps in and goes, okay, and then Tarkin is like, release him, and like, oh, that's the guy in charge. So, even these big baddies, there's a bigger baddie somewhere.
And always a bigger fish.
Yeah. And so to have this, I got to take a phone call, and it's like, yeah, I'm here. Oh yeah, they're here.
And it lends more emphasis to that. There's like still a significant amount of structure to the Remnant Empire.
Yeah, because that's something that I always found to be quite fascinating in the old EU was like, again, the power vacuum, and you have individual You know, even the first episode, looking at the client and looking how he's diverged from wearing the standard pattern officer's uniform, and he's added a cloak with a fur rim, and he's wearing the big gaudy imperial medallion around his neck.
Right?
Like,
yeah, it's almost like a medal.
Yeah, so like these guys have, or maybe it is a medal for all I know.
Yeah. The opposite of the Battle of
Sure. So these guys are like, you know, they're really Wild Westing it, where it's like, you know, I'm still in the military, sort of, but now I'm kind of my own little warlord, and I can kind of do whatever I want. And, you know, like, I really thought that they were going to dive heavy into that, that there was a disparity within the Imperial ranks.
If you played the Battlefront 2 game, the first-person story mode, wasn't the greatest in the world, but it did have a few snippets that Palpatine had left specific orders.
I did catch I saw some of the cutscenes online, but I never played it.
Yeah, so he left specific orders to specific officers for some to go here, for some to go there, and for some to retreat to the unknown regions, which inevitably was where Exegol was.
Exegol, yeah. So then, lo and behold, in a cacophony of blaster fire, the window erupts. The client is cut down, along with everybody else in the bar that isn't a principal character.
Yes, I didn't see it coming, actually.
No, neither did I. It was
nice.
Such a
nice to be surprised.
Yeah, very much so. And now we're at a bit of a, what are we gonna do? And they don't know what to do. I was actually surprised that there was as much dialogue and exposition there between Gideon and the rest of them. You know, that they didn't just literally march in and take it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think they were setting up what kind of villain he was. And so he's the kind of villain that gets inside your head. He knows everything about you.
Yeah.
You know, like by having him break down who the members of the room are, and finally we get the name of our hero.
Yeah, exactly.
But by him having all that information, it makes him very powerful. Information is crazy powerful.
Yeah.
And in this time of power vacuums and weird political alliances and you know, uncertainties, he seems to have a lot of power.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not all he has, but that's that's coming later. But before we get into the whole cutting a deal, I mean, we find out that Mando is smart enough to know that there's going to be a double cross here somewhere, and he needs some kind of leverage. So he hands off the child to Queel to run back to the Razor Crest and basically hide out there. And if something happens, take the ship and go.
That's right.
And we have the sort of the end of the episode is this, you know, like, Queel, are you there yet? No, not yet. And we have 2 scout troopers who are dispatched to go and basically retrieve the child. And the episode ends in this cliffhanger, like, what's going to happen next? Which brings us, I guess, to our final, Chapter 8, Redemption, the final episode of the first season of Mandalorian. Premiered on December 27th, 2019. Written by Jon Favreau and directed by IG-11 himself, Taika Waititi.
I couldn't even think about Christmas. I was just like, the Christmas needs to be over now so I can watch this friggin' last episode.
I felt the same way. I was so invested in this show that there was nothing else on TV for me during this period.
Absolutely.
I watched each episode, and then, you know, if I wasn't going back and just picking up like highlights of things I thought I missed, I would just outrightly watch the episode over again.
I did a thing where, and it was very time consuming by the end, but I did a thing where I watched episode 1.
Yeah.
And then right before episode 2, I watched episode 1. And then right before episode 3, I watched episode 1 and 2. And so I managed to actually do that for the entire season. So the day of, since a good thing it was a holiday week, the day of episode 8 was like a 4-hour endeavor.
Yeah.
But
by the time you get there, you've seen the first episode 8 times.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is it.
Yeah, so
I watched them all again today, and it doesn't get
No, it
hasn't
really
got,
doesn't.
I'm not burnt out by
No.
it. I see new stuff in the background. I
No,
enjoy
me
the
neither.
performances of the actors more and more.
Yeah, I've watched it front to back 3 times. Like I said before, I'm probably going to watch it again one more time before next week, just so that I'm fresh for the premiere. But we can't get to the premiere until we have the
That's right.
the cliffhanger ending, and that is Chapter 8, Redemption. So in the last episode, we left off with Queel running back to the ship, and we kind of pick up where we left off, and things are not looking very good for Queel. And unfortunately, he does not make it.
No, I was heartbroken, actually.
Yeah. I was really pulling for him.
But it's nice to see the show has actual stakes.
It really does.
Yeah.
Not in a Game of Thrones kind of way where it's don't invest in any single character because they're
zero character immunity is a novelty.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what was so compelling about those novels in the show when it first started.
Yeah,
but it's really just a trope.
Yeah, for sure it is.
You know what I mean? It's part of the problem with comic books.
Yeah.
Is when you kill Robin off in such a dramatic way, but you bring him back 3 months later.
Yeah.
It loses all its oomph. So it's got to mean something. Dead is dead.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, not for Jedi, but
wow.
But so it has to carry some weight and it has to be important. And it was actually the perfect character to kill off.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if I had to pick one of the core characters, I mean, if it wasn't him, you know, it would have been Karga. I mean, Karga
he's not
was
the fighter in the group.
Yeah.
So
it's not his name on the show.
Yeah.
That's
also, Nick Nolte is expensive.
Well, yeah. It's a pretty simplistic look at it, but yeah, I mean, if not Queel, then Grief Karga would have been my pick to eliminate somebody. Yeah, so Queel doesn't make it, but he gets far enough. It's funny, you know, it's like he's so close, but not close enough, but yet close enough that IG-11 takes notice.
Definitely.
You know, and to have him come out and say, you know, hey, I'm that child's nurse, give me back my kid. You know, and then these 2 scout troopers are like, what? They just don't know what to do about it, right?
It's pretty great. You get that moment, and it's Jason Sudeikis from Saturday Night Live, and
yeah,
the other guy's a comedian too. And I can't recall his name.
Oh my lord! You know what? I'm gonna get it because I know it.
Perfect.
Adam Pally.
There it is.
Adam Pally and Jason Sudeikis are the two.
It's a great scene.
And
apparently there was a lot of backlash for those actors because they punched the child in the scene several times.
Yeah.
And they got like personally attacked on social media because of it.
That's really unfortunate though, because they're doing a job and they're doing it so well.
Oh, really good. And for me, even though that like there was some comedy, well, the scene I'm talking about is comedy too, but for me, the best part of that scene was when they got bored and started shooting at that piece of metal on the ground.
I know, and then don't hit it.
Missing clean. And it was just like, that was such a like...
That's one of the... There's some Star Wars comedy gold
good
for you
filmmaking
right
lets you breathe right before you have to hold your breath.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So that scene was about breathing before we hold our breath and drive to the finale. Like it's like a mad dash.
You can't tell me that, you know, these troops in the Empire don't, you know, just like being in a real military, you have weeks and months of like sheer boredom that is interjected with moments of pure chaos. And so in those boredom moments, what do? You have small talk. Just like the 2 troopers on the platform by the tractor beam generator.
They say the T-16s are quite the thing.
Right. And then it happened again in Rogue One when they were talking about phasing out the rifles and getting the new rifles. And like it just, again, is it a Star Wars trope? Maybe. But at the same time,
it lends a little humanity to
it does,
them too.
Yeah, it does. It just makes them more real. And especially, you know, when you know that the bulk of the Imperial military came from a cloned force. Well, the clones never had conversations like that, so these guys must be like actual people, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So Queel's dead, and now everybody is dead except for our principals, and we've got IG-11 with the child in tow, basically run into town as the literal cavalry.
Like singular cavalry.
Yeah, and
That's a great scene of just the way he's twisting and turning and shooting and protecting the child all at the
yeah,
same time. And
yeah.
he's actually taking a lot of damage in that scene too. He's not getting away clean. It's not like he's
No.
actually taking quite a bit of damage in that scene.
No, and this is just like, this is in line with the whole, Mando gets shot every episode. It's real stakes. It's real,
There's
consequences.
genuine vulnerability.
Yeah,
to
for
all
sure
the
there
characters.
is. For sure there is. And what's really cool in this episode is we get another little Star Wars throwback, and we get the Flame Trooper, which is a callback
so
to
good.
I think Flame Troopers were a big part of the Force Unleashed.
It was Force Unleashed. Yes.
Yeah. Right down to the paint scheme, right? Like the red.
It was awesome when they
Yeah,
burned
so
them out.
nice little
Oh.
nod to fans who picked that out. But yeah, and then we can't actually get to the flame, the burning of our heroes, because by this time, IG-11 has basically run the blockade, as it were, and has reunited the child with the rest of the heroes, and the child displays his use of the Force one more time, revealing that
A
he can-
huge one.
he
For
can-
me, that's way bigger than levitating.
he can stop fire.
He's like created a force field.
Yeah.
And he basically pushes it back.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of
Blows
Kylo
out the whole front of
Ren
it.
holding a blaster bolt midair. It's-
Crazy innate force abilities.
Yeah,
in this
yeah. So, wow. Where do we go after that? So, more running and gunning, and we have to escape. So, what do? We cut a hole in the grate, kind of like diving into the trash compactor, and we go out the back door.
Classic escape through the sewers.
Yeah, but along the way, Mando gets wounded. He takes a shot right to the dome. And for a while there, you think, uh-oh, is he going to make it or not? Because he's convinced he's dying, and he's like, leave me, I'm not going to make it. But they refuse to. And
He has that scene with when they all go through the thing except for IG.
yeah,
And they have that scene which it's a droid, but it humanizes him.
it's a real
It's,
touching moment too.
And I buy him taking like the helmet off was certainly the actor needs that. There's a certain degree of we have to have the star's face in it.
Yeah,
So it's kind of it's a fine line to walk when you're a character that never shows your face, but you're
Yeah.
a very handsome actor, and you could certainly sell put a lot more female butts in the seats, if you will,
Yeah, I guess
by
so.
showing your face a lot.
yeah,
So I really felt that it worked for the story,
yeah,
and that line where he was still willing to kill him
oh yeah,
rather than show his face, but then that line where he's like, well, as you're so fond of pointing out, I'm not really
I'm not
I'm not
alive.
really a person.
yeah,
know? So-
I'm not a living thing. So,
Exactly. So it really worked. And then the little nod to The Empire Strikes Back, and you, the medic, there,
Yeah.
the little back to spray, which apparently
Yeah.
recovers everything, including
Yeah.
traumatic death wounds to the head.
Traumatic brain injuries.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Gotta
but
get
by
me
this
some of
time, we've had a few, the interactions with the droids, they've become less, like you say, early on in the show, he's very much adamant, like, no droids. But by the time we get to this scene, like, we've seen his stance on them kind of soften a little bit,
Certainly.
and it's been over time, like, it's not just this flip a switch and suddenly they're okay, but, this really puts sort of the final...
Maybe droids.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, this one saved my life, so maybe
Yeah.
maybe they're okay.
Maybe on a case-by-case
Yeah,
basis.
yeah. So then, of course, they're left with, where do we go? There was an enclave here, so maybe we can go there. And come to find out that the enclave looks like they have not fared very well.
Very well in that battle at all. No, the pile of helmets
Yeah,
and armor,
yeah. and
very
that's
striking,
it's-
very harrowing.
very kind of heartbreaking too, right? 'Cause
Yes.
the last time we saw everybody, they were fighting, and it was like this return to this, like, the Mandalore of old, right? In our warrior ways, and oh well, apparently they didn't do so well. But hey, surprise, the armorer made it.
Yeah. Well, she probably never left.
I don't think she left at all, and I mean, for
No.
her, like, she had a purpose to be there, not just
She
And not
also
just-
seems to indicate that some people may have escaped off-world.
yeah.
I think you'll see Favreau's character again.
Yeah. Oh, did I just skip over that? I did. I just skipped over the whole escape through the lava tunnel.
Oh, through the lava tunnel?
The lava tunnel, yeah.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Which is another great moment.
It is a great moment in the self-sacrifice. But the other thing I really liked from a visual standpoint was the molten or the solidified magma, the volcanic rock that basically had encased the droid, which you think is an astromech droid, but then
I loved that.
The droid kind of breaks out of the shell and it stands up and it's like, oh, it's part astromech, part something else. Oh my God.
It's an astromech with like,
with K2SO's legs,
arms and legs. It's fantastic, actually. Like,
I loved
why
it.
not?
Totally loved it. It was very inspiring from a role playing stance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but they make it out. He sacrifices himself with his primary programming. That if he's going to be compromised, that he has to self-destruct, which I felt was kind of contrived. Like how do you? Like, you're a bounty hunter. You're an assassin droid turned bounty hunter. So why, like, who builds that kind of thing?
I thought it was part of his flawed character. It seemed to be like his go-to.
Yeah. Must self-destruct.
He used it several times.
Yeah. No, don't self-destruct. Oh, okay, not now.
It's like his primary programming is so important to him that at the drop of a hat, almost, he's like, well, I'll just self-destruct then.
But is that just a him thing, or is that like
I thought
all
it was.
droids
I kind of thought
model?
it was part of his personality.
Just him. Oh, I guess
a very extreme personality. Like, there's no gray areas. Oh yeah, well, I'll self-destruct.
You kind of think that's a piece that maybe Taika Waititi had added to that character, like on a personal level.
His comedic timing.
Yeah.
He's really funny.
I mean, if you've seen
best part of Thor Ragnarok,
that too, and have you seen Jojo Rabbit?
I have not.
Check out Jojo Rabbit because his lines as Hitler, having
really
he plays a version of Hitler in this movie, and the conversations that he has with this kid are just like so off the wall. It's like, oh yeah, that's totally him. But yeah, so self-sacrifice, and maybe it's sends a message to Mando that not all droids are bad, and that
the thermal detonator in his chest.
Yeah. The nice touch too, because it's very clearly, looks like the one that Leia is holding in Jabba's palace.
Yeah.
So we get back to the armorer, and the armorer kind of puts our hero, who's revealed to be Din Djarin. She puts him on a quest, and that is to reunite the child with its people.
With enemy space wizards.
Yeah.
I love that line.
Yeah, but not before she is able to craft. After the tale is told, she informs him that he has indeed earned his signet, and the Mudhorn becomes his signet on his shoulder, much the same way that Boba Fett's armor bears the mythosaur.
The mythosaur, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, and then he gets a jetpack. Nice. Yeah.
And she tells him his armor is complete.
Yes. She asks him specifically if he'd had, I can't remember the words, but she basically asks him if he's had flight training, and he's like,
yeah, have you trained it? And it's suggesting that she hasn't known him.
Yeah.
Or been responsible for training him for all that long.
Right.
Perhaps.
I don't feel like that she fits the role of. There is a mentorship role there, but I feel like it's much more spiritual leader.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, like almost like and not saying like, I mean, especially in the new Disney canon, there are like a ton of like strong female Mandalorian characters who are very capable of waging war and combat and all that stuff. But I get the feeling like the armorer's role was more of a spiritual leader than a general per se.
Certainly.
Yeah. So take the child to find his own and return it to its kind. So that plan is immediately foiled because, Moff Gideon, who is really upset at this point, to the point where he's basically massacred his own troops, is now running them down in a TIE fighter, and it's a new variant that we've never seen before.
With almost like S foils.
Yeah. So come to find out recently that is actually been designated as what they call the Outland TIE.
Outland.
Yeah, the Outland TIE, which meant that it like you say, like the S foils or the solar panels are able to fold so that the TIE could actually land. And I guess that's sort of a way of, not having the Imperial infrastructure of like the racking in a Star Destroyer. What do you do if your ships are planet bound?
Yes. Yeah, no, it was a nice touch for me.
It was a nice touch. And so we have a big showdown, and again, it's a kind of a run and gun, and you can't give a guy a new toy and expect him not to play with it.
Oh man.
So what do we get from that? We get him on the wing, and latches himself onto Gideon's tie, and then tries
another sort of Iron Man type scene.
Yeah, like holding on to the what were they, F-22s, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah. Tries to blast his way in. That doesn't prove to be successful. So, hey, I'll just take these explosives and I'll plant them on the hull, and we'll go from there. And it isn't enough to destroy the TIE, but it certainly is enough to take it down, which gives our hero enough time to escape. And that really kind of brings his story to an end. But we are left with this one last striking visual, and by now it's not really a big secret. But those Jawas were in for a bit of a shock there. They thought they were going to scavenge that TIE, and then we see the durasteel of the hull start to glow, and we see the poking through of a very unique lightsaber blade, and of course it's the dark saber.
I literally crapped myself.
So did I. Figuratively
crapped myself. I lost my mind.
My wife knew nothing about the darksaber. She's not a fan of Clone Wars, and she knew, she kind of was around when I was watching Rebels, so she was like, I've seen it, but I don't know what it is. And so I immediately made her go back, and I made her watch all of the episodes of Clone Wars and all of the episodes.
That was a super big piece of redemption for me, because during the build up to the Rise of Skywalker, in the trailer with the dagger, I had become convinced that was the dagger of Mortis.
Yeah, so that was a big that was sort of a leading theory in the fan world. And I was like,
why would you drop a ball like that? And then, so now when I saw the darksaber, I thought, oh, that's catharsis.
Very much so.
It really was. I went, oh, like, this guy gets it.
Yeah. So here we have Moff Gideon standing on the wreckage of his broken TIE, wielding the darksaber, and then that just brings up all kinds of questions about,
And, at that point, I had paid attention to him. He was the next villain.
Yep.
But when I saw him standing there with the darksaber, I had to pause it, and that's when I started to look at what he was wearing, his armor.
Yeah,
it's like he's wearing like a modified version of what Veers wears.
Yeah,
sort of the Mud Trooper armor.
Yeah, very much.
Vest.
Yeah,
he's wearing a cloak. He's got crazy big shoulder pads that reminiscent of Vader.
Yeah, so it kind of lends itself to that idea that there is sort of there's some non-uniformity amongst what's left of the Empire, and they're just kind of doing their own thing. So, if Werner Herzog's client character can get away with fur and a giant gong around his neck, and if that's any indication of how big of a badass he is, then what does that say for Gideon, right?
Well, and even Mando seems to know a thing or two about him, because he's like, this is the guy that was there for the Purge.
Yeah.
And they reference it as the Night of 1,000 Tears.
Yeah, and I mean, again, all these questions that just kind of come flooding into my head. It's like they have that whole conversation about why does he know who we are, and then there's like, oh, he was an ISB agent on Mandalore during the Purge. And I mean, the ISB, the Imperial Security Bureau, I mean, it's almost like, they're like a cross between, how do you describe them, like Secret Service agents who are like internal affairs, of a policing agency, like they kind of, they're policing themselves, but their methods are maybe
Yeah,
a little
they are
sinister.
like internal affairs,
Yeah.
military police kind of.
Like, well, I guess in Canada it would be like our NIS, the National Investigation Service.
Yeah.
But yeah, so where does he come from? What's his operational history? And then for him to be in possession of the Darksaber, knowing the lore behind that and what it symbolizes to the Mandalorian culture, it's like, oh my God, like does Mandalore still exist as a planet?
I kept saying like every episode was getting more Star Wars and more Star Wars and more Star Wars. And then literally the cliffhanger to the season got as Star Wars as it could friggin' get.
Yeah. I have to agree with you. I do. I agree with you on
and it left me just like I was agog. My jaw was like sitting in my lap. I was just like, oh, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. Yeah, fantastic.
So that's season 1 in a nutshell, and it's quite a long nutshell actually. I never expected it to take this long, but hey, what do you know? If we got to cut it in half, we'll cut it in half. But
certainly,
it doesn't change the fact that people can consume it sort of however they want to. Any final thoughts on season 1 before we just take a quick riff on what we think's how season 2 is gonna start off?
It lived up to every expectation I had, and it went so far beyond them. It makes me nervous for season 2. it was so strong of a freshman outing.
Yeah,
I can scarcely believe it.
I participated in several online groups that are pop culture oriented, and a guy had posted the meme with the guy sitting at the bench and it's like such and such a thing, and it's like change my mind.
Yes.
Have you seen that? So this one said season 1 of The Boys was the best first season of television ever, changed my mind. And then I responded with, this is the way.
Yeah.
Like this is easily some of, oh my God. I have not been as invested in a television show like The Mandalorian since the rebooted Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
Like
for me, it was Lost until they shit the bed, which scares me a lot too. But I agree. I was ready to consume Star Wars in any, like you could have put aspartame in it and I probably would have drank it.
Yeah.
But when you gave me a masterpiece, I can't say enough. I can't. It's a golden age of Star Wars right now.
I would agree with you on that.
Like there's the what came before was like, it's so nostalgic and informs everything that came after it. But this is like to be an adult and to have those connections to what came before, and then to have access to such a broad scope and have it done so well. Yeah. And it really does feel like maybe a renaissance is better than a golden age.
Absolutely. And I mean, we didn't even touch on the filmmaking aspect of this show at all, and I mean that's a whole conversation for another time.
They've reinvented the wheel.
This is what I mean,
which is what Lucas kept doing time and again.
Star Wars, if anything, Star Wars has built a reputation on innovation, and this is no different.
It's all of Hollywood's R&D department.
Yeah. So, just quick predictions. Where do you think season 2 is going to go?
Well, we know a few things, and I don't know if I like that I know them.
Is this based on speculation, or is this based on...
It's based on casting information that we have. We know...
So why don't we get the big ones out of the way? We
know that Rosario Dawson will be playing Ahsoka Tano. We don't know how... I can't picture her being a recurring character. I can picture her being a recurring character, but I can't picture her joining the cast in any significant way.
Certainly not the way that she joined the Rebels, the Ghost Crew.
No. We know that Sasha Grey, I believe, has been cast. We don't know her role yet, but it seems to... This is that era where her and Sabine, or Ahsoka and Sabine, were so tight.
Yeah.
That lends itself to a little bit of stuff. We know that Timothy Oliphant has been cast as Cobb Vanth, and we know from the Aftermath novels that he is in possession of Boba Fett's armor.
Yeah.
And we know that Tamara Morrison has been cast, and the rumor is that it was to play Boba Fett,
Yeah.
But it could also be old Rex in my mind, and that's almost more compelling to me.
I'm right there with you on that. Like Rex is a reason for Ahsoka to want to check back in because they had such a tight relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
And an amazing character.
So there's a thing. I don't know if you got this or not, and maybe I don't want to say I'm pulling this out of my butt, but recently there was, how they retcon stuff.
Yes.
So there's a retconning that says one of the troopers, one of the rebel troopers on Endor, and it's an older gentleman with a gray goatee. They've retconned to say that's Rex.
Yes.
That he was there for the Battle of Endor. So,
yeah, I remember seeing that image years ago, and I can't remember whether like you say, I can't remember whether it popped into my head first or not. But I remember seeing it and going, in their camo style outfits and stuff. And it was a guy with he had a helmet on, so you couldn't see he was bald, and he definitely had the white goatee.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's completely fine with me that Rex was leading a strike team alongside Han Solo on Endor.
I would love to see.
They won.
I would love to see more of Tamira Morrison's face that's not CGI'd, like actual acting. So
certainly,
I am all for more of him in any capacity because I think he's a great actor and doesn't get enough credit.
He could certainly play multiple roles in the show.
Oh my God, yeah, of course he can.
Presumably still,
I think that would be
oodles of clones around.
That would make for a wicked, face off Rex facing off, Boba Fett and having some sort of, because Rex and his experience with the clones and my brothers and this and that, like to speak to Boba Fett as a clone brother is probably a conversation he's never had before.
That's very true.
Yeah, I think that would be a fantastic meeting.
Super interested at seeing the child develop in the Force.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that there'd be any, I thought it was going to be a gunslinger show, and it is.
Oh yeah, for sure it is.
It's very, very deep in terms of that, and I'm looking forward to that now. There's going to be a lightsaber combat of some kind.
Yeah, I think so too. Probably, probably, I mean, if they save it right to the end, like you say, we know that Ahsoka is going to be back. Rosario Dawson is confirmed to cast in the role.
That's right.
Does Gideon have any kind of martial training where he is, so adept with a lightsaber that she's the only one that can bring him down,
or even possibly Force sensitive?
Well, there is that as well. Yeah. So the other question I have, so going into season 2, staying with that sort of the Jedi lore, is the rumor is that ice planet is Ilum.
It looks very much like Ilum to me, and therefore they're looking for kyber crystals. Yeah, it's a logical leap to me.
I'd like to know how they connect that dot to go to Ilum. Like who or what is going to put them on the path to go there?
Certainly.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be, certainly that'll be fleshed out in the first couple of episodes. Who knows when? I mean, that trailer doesn't really kind of give you any indication of where in the season they're going to, when they're going to get there, whether it's
and
early
although it's
or
in
late.
The periphery and it's not explained at all in the friggin' sequel movies, which could have been just done in an offhanded line, but Ilum is in fact
Starkiller Base. It's touched on in Jedi Fallen Order.
Right. Yes.
When Cal Kestis goes there, and it's still called Ilum, but by the time he goes there, they are well on their way to excavating that trench.
Right, and there are no kyber. They've just gutted the kyber crystals.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, any more predictions you want to touch on, or do you think we've covered it all?
I think we were extensive. If we missed something, forgive us, but we were extensive.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. I can't believe it's been a year, and I can't wait for another week.
Oh, I know. Andy, you got some closing remarks?
My only thought, are they going to touch on more groundwork for the First Order?
That's so I do believe that we are going to see, and I hate to say this because I love the storytelling that's going on and I love the creative flexibility, but I think the machine, the corporate machine will out of necessity will have to tie in elements of the First Order. Like if
Certainly.
not, Who knows? We may see.
You might find with their push with the High Republic that there might be some backwards tie-ins too.
Well, that, you know what, and maybe that will be a little bit more refreshing than trying to like shoehorn, you know, stuff that's like, oh, we know what happens.
I don't know if you played Fallen Order right through, but the
I did.
story in that is fantastic.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The reasons for him making the choices he makes, and the quest that he goes on is really nice. And so there's all kinds of stories left to be told here.
I've never seen a more horrific looking Wookiee in my life than I have in that game. But the story it's wonderful, and I love the tie-ins with, you know, Rebels being, you know, Cal's master being of the same species as Zeb, and I just love all of that stuff. Like,
it's nice and cohesive. You know, someone said in the last couple episodes we did that, is it the Marvel universe? And I think it's that and more. I think it's very cohesive.
Yeah, it is. I mean, between the multimedia machine and, again, this Lucasfilm story group, which may or may not, you know, talk to each other with any or no frequency, but they're there, and they're ensuring some consistency. But like, yeah, when you have a deliberate plan to link everything together, I mean, I know I said at the beginning of the show that we're going to spin some plates, but that's really spinning plates. And
heavy duty. Yeah, it spans, so there is so much that's been done and can be done with it. It's I'm really glad to be here.
Well, my friend, it's safe to say that we are both very much keen on where the show has come from, and definitely on where it's going. And I would invite everybody who's listening now to come back and join us every week starting October 31st, where we're going to come back and we're going to do this again, and we're going to react to each episode as it airs. So warning, we're going to talk about stuff that you might not want to hear, so maybe...
spoiler warning.
Yeah, take this as a warning.
If you haven't seen the show, why are you listening to us?
Exactly. How long have we gone here? Oh my Lord, we're coming up on 3 hours.
Yeah.
Anyway, my friend, it was wonderful as always.
Always, Wes. Thanks.
I look forward to doing this for the next 8 weeks.
That actually has me stoked.
Yeah, where we won't make it a 3-hour show.
It'd be great.
If you've listened to 3 hours all at once, oh my God, I want to hear from you, because you are a trooper. Thank you so much. All right, my friend. May the Force be with you.
And you.
And this is the way.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Fandom Power. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll be talking about another one of your favorite fandoms. Fandom Power is a Sawcast production.